Today on the Great White Shark Experience podcast, we have Craig Ferreira, renowned great white shark specialist and the owner of White Shark Africa, the only cage diving operation in Mossel Bay. Today we talk about what's happening with the great white sharks, how White Shark Africa began, and Craig's father who helped get the great white shark protected in South Africa in 1991. Cheers. Craig Ferreira. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm podcasting.
Podcasting.
No, I'm fine.
Good. So
anyway,
going back to the roots. You are the founder of White Shark Africa, the sole cage diving operation in Mossel Bay.
I'm not the founder of White Shark Africa, but before White Shark Africa, there was what did they call Shark Africa? It was called Shark Africa.
Okay.
And the original guy, I was working for the Research Institute.
Oh, right, okay.
In Gansbaai. Actually, it wasn't the institute then. It was still the White Shark Research Project at the Shark Centre in Cape Town. But I was doing research everywhere, up and down the coast. And then got a phone call from a guy called Jimmy Extian. And he wanted to start shark cage diving, yeah. And I think it was like 92 or something. And so myself and Liam Reynolds, we were sent down.
Scope it out.
Yeah, scope it out and come and help him and show him how to find sharks. And at the same time, it gave us an opportunity to get on the water over here and without bringing a boat down because he had his own boat.
Yeah.
So he was the first guy in Mossel Bay, I think in 92, yeah, to start shark cage diving.
Yeah.
But his boat was, he was a freaking nutcase, this guy. I think he had a lobotomy or something because we go out, he's got a sailing boat, which is just useless for, I mean, it wasn't the right boat. But that doesn't
like
matter.
a catamaran or just a...
No, a freaking sailing boat, a 45-foot old thing. And I mean, you had to like climb down to get into water. But we're sitting there chumming at the island.
Yeah.
And he says, and we're not getting sharks. So I think it's the second or the third day. He says, I know how to get the sharks. And puts his wetsuit on. He's a spearfishman. Jumps into the water and starts swimming around.
Shooting things.
Diving down, shooting fish. And what? This guy's going to get fucking eaten. So anyway.
Shark World's a bit different, isn't it? There's always an odd character.
Crazy. But anyway, he's still around. So he started it, Joe. Then he sold it. Then he sold it to Roy Portway, and Roy Portway bought an old catamaran,
yeah,
sailing cat, that they lived on. Him and his wife Jackie lived on the boat, and they
took people to the island.
But I mean, this guy was such a fair weather sailor. I mean, if the wind went up to 15 knots, it was panic stage. He's got to get back. So what happened is that they lived hand to mouth off the business, because half the time he cancelled the trips.
Yeah.
So all the agents then stopped using them, and then he contacted me in 2007, because in 2005 I sold White Shark Africa. I mean White Shark Projects.
Yeah, White Shark Projects.
Yeah,
you started that, didn't you?
Started that, yeah. So I started White Shark Projects. And then I sold it because I had enough, and then I bought.
Just in time as well, really.
Yeah. But I had a big operation in Gansbaai, and then I bought White Shark Africa, and then Crystal got involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it went.
Yeah, nice.
So I've been working since the end of 2007.
Well, okay. So yeah, and then obviously the White Sharks disappeared in Gansbaai. And then this became the fucking...
When did they disappear in Gansbaai? I mean...
2017, I believe. Well, that's when the orcas showed up. I don't know.
Yeah.
They still go there occasionally, don't they? But
yeah, they'll be passing through, but there's different reasons why. It's not just the orcas. Everybody's blaming the orcas, and it's quite an interesting thing to talk about. I get asked this all the time about what I think is happening in Gansbaai and False Bay, and we're having it here as well. And I think it's a mixture between. I think the main culprit is on the coastline is the long line and overfishing.
Yeah.
and it's just removing the food for both the white sharks and the orcas.
Yeah.
And I think the orcas are trying to chase the white sharks away in order to get rid of the competition for the resource.
Really?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And they're obviously overfishing further up the west coast because that's where the orcas normally hang out.
Yeah.
So they're moving further afield because they swim into Tesco's, or they swim into the Spa, and the shelves empty wherever they've been.
Yeah.
So they go foraging in other areas. And I think it's just trying to dominate the resource of food.
Okay.
That's the main reason. But then you do get poaching taking place in Gansbaai.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it now because no sharks are gone, but they were.
Yeah.
And they were selling the jaws for between $10,000 and $50,000 a jaw.
Fuck.
The most expensive jaw sold was 80,000 pounds.
Yeah.
British pounds.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? When you.
Yeah, so you shitload of
I
money.
mean,
And
people.
that was some time ago. And then around False Bay is just overfished.
Yeah.
You know? And the sharks, people think great white sharks only feed on seals. But they don't. Seals make up a part of their diet, and you've seen in the winter they feed on the seals,
Yeah.
and in summer they
Go on the reef system and
yeah, they
of the
eat
sharks and.
yeah, because you can't just eat burgers every day. You have to.
Divert, yeah.
They need the different minerals and nutrients from the different prey. And so False Bay has just been fished out, and because I remember years ago, the orcas used to come to Ireland every year, quite often, and the sharks were always there.
Yeah.
In the winter, there were so many sharks. I mean, it was almost never went out and didn't see a great white shark. And then Gansbaai, the abalone poaching has got a big impact because what's happening there is that the abalone eat the kelp.
Yeah.
And they used to keep Shark Alley clear and around the island, but now the island is just grown so full of kelp.
Is it really? It's
Yeah.
just covered in it.
Yeah, because there's nothing to
Nothing
feed
to
with
eat it.
kelp.
Yeah.
So now that thwarts the white shark's ability to approach and use stealth or whatever it wants to use to hunt. They use different hunting techniques at the island.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they just can't get to the seals because the seals got plenty of place to hide.
Yeah.
So again, if you can't get to the prey, the only way they can get prey in Gansbaai now, like seals, is if they go seaward side of the islands and wait for seals coming back from sea or going out to sea.
Yeah.
But they're more difficult to take because the seals scoot along the bottom when they get near the island, and the only time the sharks get them, so the sharks have to pick up on them, follow them, wait for the seal to go up to take air or to look for a wall-out spot, and then the white shark will go.
Launches up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's so many different factors, isn't there, that come into play, and everything's working against them at the moment. Do you think they've got a long time left in South Africa, or how are you feeling about that? How many? Do you think they're just being redispersed, or do you think they're dwindling in numbers now?
Okay, so it's a hard question to answer because there's a couple of things that confuse me. First of all, False Bay and Gansbaai, the average size there is a lot larger than Mossel Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, when I did that population dynamic study, average size taken along the whole coastline from Natal to False Bay was 3.4 meters inland, which is quite large.
That's
average
for an average size. That's bloody big, isn't it?
Because we're in Straits Bay, Gansbaai and False Bay, we were finding a lot of sharks over 4 meters long.
Yeah.
Mossel Bay, actually, Mossel Bay has changed because when I first did work in Mossel Bay, we saw quite a number of 4 meter plus sharks.
Oh, right, really? So they were big?
Yeah.
They did used to be big back then?
We often see, well, every time I came out, we'd see at least one 4 meter white shark.
Yeah.
And in '89, Monique Price was taken by about a 4.5 meter white shark.
That was the lady who dived down at the island there?
Yeah, on scuba, yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't diving, she was on the surface. So there were big sharks around. but it's changed to this area's changed to a juvenile subadult area. So what confuses me is that if they were being chased by the orcas out of Hans Bay and Mossel Bay, why are we not seeing those big
shocks here?
Because I mean, we used to go out in Hans Bay and we could have 18, 15, 10 sharks.
Yeah.
And the smallest one might have been 3.5 meters, and the biggest one 5 meters.
Yeah.
Very often, and sometimes we'd have 5 or 6, 4.8, 4.7 sharks around the boat.
Yeah.
So where are those sharks? And that's a good question. That confuses me because if they were moving up the coast, we'd be seeing it.
Mm.
So I've got a feeling they've just ducked, and they've gone to foreign shores.
Yeah.
But then in PE, they've seen a great increase in white shark sightings now.
But in Port Elizabeth, yeah.
Yeah, it's gone up. We spoke to a guy the other day, and he was saying that
they have an island there, don't they? It's Bird Island, is it?
Oh, you got St. Croix, Black Rocks, and Bird Island.
Okay.
But they're not seen as so many there. They actually seen them in the bay or certain reefs and the guy speaking to has been fishing there for years, competition fishermen. And he says they would go out there and see maybe once in a month.
Yeah.
That somebody would see a great white. And he says now it's almost each time they go out, one of the boats or several of the boats see great whites.
Yeah.
So something's happening.
I don't know, and that's what worries me as well, is in that same time period that you're talking about, industrial fishing's come a long way, hasn't it? So super trawlers, big longliners, big fishing fleets coming from Asia direction, and you've got port and starboard, not that they're the sole reason, but are killing a lot of bigger sharks, like the ones Alice and Towner. And especially since we've just seen the Seven Gills wash out, and just that one perfect storm washed 20 sharks out. Now
they were cow sharks.
The Seven Gills.
Seven Gills, yeah.
But that just happened to be one of those incidences where the storm was in the right direction to wash the sharks out.
So there could have been a load.
So how many were they killing when they were coming through?
Yeah, and white sharks don't always wash up either. So
No.
for each one that washes up, there could be
10, 11 others, yeah.
So, and white sharks, great white sharks, like same as elephants. You know, in Botswana, for instance, you can be in Chobe.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't cull and hunt anymore, because when they used to cull the elephants, I don't know why they would do something like that, but they'd cull the elephants in Chobe, and in Maremi, those herds would start reacting all weird and funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just non-local communication.
Okay.
So it's the same as when you can put electrodes onto trees on one side of a forest and start a fire on the other side, and if you actually get a reaction from the trees. Everything's connected. So the great white sharks, they also have non-local communication. That is why if you got a whale carrion, a dead whale floating in the water, and the wind's going that way and the current's going that way, the first shark to arrive at the whale will be one that swims through the trail, the chum trail or the corridor. But once that one starts feeding, sharks from every direction will move in, because they can pick up the
vibrations of the water, everything,
from that one feeding and what it's putting out.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So that's another problem. So if you start killing, even when Osage came here,
yeah,
they hooked, I don't know how many sharks. I wasn't here, I was overseas. Krista was here. And we had great sharks. And after they screwed around here, the sharks disappeared for, I think, 1.5 months. And I went from 10 sharks every trip to no sharks. Because of
they're cowboys, eh?
So I want to put it out there. I don't like Osage.
No.
I don't like their...
They're not popular here.
No, I don't like the way they operate. I don't agree with it. It's called Hollywood science, and it's all macho, patting on the back and high-fiving bullshit.
Yeah, it's all for the Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, I've been in contact with them, and because we perfected a technique in Hans Bay to capture sharks once in a while.
Okay.
Just to make sure we were getting our measurements and that right.
Yeah.
So we capture a shark, bring it in, take a tissue sample, measure it, But we first estimate the size net before
Yeah.
we captured it. And we could capture it, arrest it at the boat, tag it, take a tissue sample, measure it, and let it go all within 8 minutes on average.
Wow. Yeah.
Without any injury.
And you don't need to
No
pick it up
hooks.
on a big
No.
trailer and
in the water.
Yeah.
You don't damage it and bruise it. No hooks.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Yeah, the body's not really designed to support itself out of water.
Well, the water is their rib cage.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know, so you take them out the water, there's nothing to support. They don't have a rib cage like mammals do. Even other fish species, they've got a rib cage to protect their organs and their swim bladder, but sharks don't.
Yeah.
They're cartilage.
All cartilage, yeah.
Yeah, except the teeth.
Yeah. One of the other, yeah, they're made out of same
And Teflon.
yeah. May as
Titanium.
well be.
Titanium.
Yeah.
Actually, amazing how hard those teeth are.
They're incredible, and like things megalodon teeth that are coming out now from like prehistoric times, and they're still pretty much in perfect conditions.
I know, and sharp. I found a monster one, beach in Cape Town, and it's actually still sharp.
Still sharp, yeah.
Fuck. But you look at when they grab the cage sometimes,
Yeah.
or the motors, and
Or the bottom of the boat. You're having to fiberglass again because they've ripped through it.
but they bite that metal on the motors or the prop, and their teeth don't get damaged.
No, yeah.
It's quite weird.
Very
They're
sad.
very hard. And then what people don't realize is that the teeth are not rooted.
Yeah. Nobody.
It's almost like they're super glued.
Mm.
You know, they you know how it works. It's a conveyor belt, and they just keep shedding. But that's why they're not rooted.
Yeah.
If they were rooted, before great white shark was a month old,
All its teeth would be gone.
all gone.
Smashed into reef,
Yeah,
rib cages.
biting, raking it off, and
Bones.
and bone. Yeah, so, and that's with all shark species, because they're often in robust. A lot of shark species don't go through too many teeth, you know, especially your benthic sharks. But your larger super predators, they go through teeth.
Especially when you're coming up at like 25 miles an hour from the bottom, plus smashing bone, blubber, everything, whales.
You can imagine. I mean, imagine off the Farallon Islands, you got a 2,000 pound or 1,000 kilogram elephant seal.
Yeah.
And you got a 5 meter great white shark that weighs 2.5 tons, coming up, like you said, what, 40, 50 k's an hour. That impact on that jaw must be
Phenomenal,
unbelievable, and that's why the jaw is cartilage, and that's why the jaw is not attached to the rest of the skull,
Okay.
because it has to absorb that energy, that attack energy.
Okay.
Because if it was attached to the skull and it was bone, it would just shatter.
Break. Straight
So
away.
it's designed to absorb the attack energy, and it breaks. It's all flexible.
Yeah. It's phenomenal, isn't it? Like 40 million years of evolution. Well, 400 if you go for sharks, but
No,
white sharks are about 40 million, aren't they?
Great white sharks. Somebody actually asked me on my TikTok thing, mentioned the other day about, you know, people started comparing who'd be the champion in a ring kind of thing, a great white shark or an orca. And a great white shark has got no chance against orcas because they mob.
Yeah.
You know, they
Pack.
how do you take? It's like you walking outside. You can actually be a karate expert, and you walk into 5 guys on the street. You still don't stand much chance.
No, they're going to
Take you out.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the great white. I mean, it's got no chance against 3, 4, 5.
They're just so big as well, aren't they?
They are, but what came up, I was thinking about a lot. One-on-one, if you took a 5 meter great white shark and a 5 meter orca, I don't think an orca would go near that 5 meter great white shark if it was on its own.
You don't think, no?
Because the white shark's jaw and teeth are so much more efficient
Yeah.
than orcas.
Mm.
The orca would battle to actually
Get through that skin. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually it wouldn't be able to take tissue out. It would be very difficult for an orca. But if a white shark just grabbed the orca somewhere,
Yeah.
the orca's in the shit because it'll remove tissue.
Yeah.
And the great white shark has got better smell. They've got great eyesight. They've got the lateral line which picks up which
Vibration.
tells them exactly where they are in the water. Doesn't even have to. The orca's got sonar and sight and smell. But a great white shark's got a larger.
Do they have smell?
Orcas, yeah. Of
They do. They can smell.
course they can smell. The nostrils,
Well, do they?
as far as I know.
Orcas have nostrils.
Let's check it out.
Well, my phone.
And
They must have some kind of smell, but I know they don't have like
I'm just thinking now.
they don't have regular nostrils. They have they might have it smell through their
No,
their
I
mouth.
actually don't think they got nostrils. No, man, they must have nostrils. But for people watching this, what's interesting with great white, all sharks, and talking about great white sharks, they don't use their nostrils to breathe. The nostrils are only there for olfactory purposes. They need to smell.
Smell.
Yeah. So a white shark's got a larger array of equipment for hunting and killing. It's such an efficient machine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the best way to describe a great white shark would be an F-18 fighter jet.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's got everything ready for action. I'd say the best way to describe an orca would be a warthog, 18 warthog.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
That kind of thing.
We're not fond of orcas this side.
No,
I what they're
I
doing.
freaking hate orcas. I think they should go extinct tomorrow.
Destroying the fucking sharks. Fucking hell.
That's a stupid, freaking wasteful animal. But what people must understand, you get two different. You get one species of orca. They're not subspecies, but you get pods which feed only on fish,
Okay.
and they'll remain in an area, and they'll feed on salmon and herring, etc., etc. And then they're normally quite large. You can swim with them. They're no danger. I mean, large groups, and they're very social.
Yeah.
But then you get the transients,
Transient ones. Yeah.
which we get along
These
now.
ones. Yeah.
And they hunt mammals,
Yeah.
and they're very wasteful hunters, killers, because they'll chase down a grey whale for 3 days and keep sitting on top of the blowhole
So
to
it
suffocate
suffocates.
it, and then they'll just eat the tongue.
Really? Just that's all they want.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's like the sharks. They only eat the liver, don't they?
yeah, and they're extremely wasteful.
Yeah. No, it's like the ones off the west coast of I think it's Canada, isn't it? So they have the local pod which feeds on salmon, and then they have the transient pod that goes up and down and smashes seals and everything else. And they've blocked the salmon river, I think. So the local pod's dying now, but the right next door is the transient pod, and they're absolutely fine. They're thriving. So the only difference is the food source is different. So
Why do they block the river?
it's something to do with electricity and damming it and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
Well,
it's in
we
Canada.
always manage to screw things up.
Yeah.
The other problem along this coastline is our government.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the ANC. They call it the African National Congress. I call it anarchy, nepotism, and corruption.
Okay.
ANC, and they just use this because they're sort of communist, in their approach, in their governmental approach, and they're very in bed with the Chinese.
Okay.
And they allow the Chinese to come and rape our waters.
It does look, yeah. I think most of Africa's fishing coast or coastline is either plundered by Europe on one side and China on the other. Like it's crazy, isn't it? And they don't have any boats. Like we were talking to, I think it was Nikia and Esther and Lynette as well. And Mozambique doesn't have the Coast Guard doesn't even have a boat to go and patrol. Even though there's an MBA there, there's no.
Even if they had a boat, they wouldn't have anybody to drive the boat.
Yeah.
So it is.
That's it. It's fine. There's no one to.
Mozambique's
patrol.
a lovely country. I've been to Mozambique.
No, I need to get there. I need to go visit.
It's very nice. I mean, if you go way up north, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. It's actually a nice country.
Yeah.
And a lot of subsistence fishing.
Yeah.
But the Chinese are out there long lining.
Rinsing it.
But when it comes to sharks, they take the fins. They take the fins, right?
Yeah.
And not just the Chinese. But the Chinese are the ones that are the biggest market for the fins. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah.
But it's been a tradition with Chinese for many, many years, centuries, shark fin soup.
Yeah.
But it was never a problem in the past because, well, not for centuries, sorry, but for a long time, because it was very expensive, and is a very expensive dish.
Yeah.
It tastes like shit. They
No flavour.
they flavour it with chicken stock.
Yeah.
But now, I think there's nearly 300 million Chinese that are wealthy enough
To afford it.
To afford shark
And
fin soup.
it's a wealth status, isn't it? Like everyone wants to look.
Yeah, and that's so what's happening is just that more people can afford shark fin soup, and that's why there's more pressure on the sharks. And then the Chinese men think it makes their wieners bigger.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
No, it's run on fucking shark
Yeah.
fins. Like,
Where do you come up with eat a shark's fin and my wiener's going to get bigger?
somewhere, it must be in some literature, some Chinese literature. Somewhere.
I can understand rhino horn because it's horny.
Yeah, it makes sense.
A shark, for goodness sake. I mean, which guy was sitting out there one day, somewhere off China, and decided, I'm going to eat a fin because it'll make my wiener bigger.
Those idiots in every country, in there.
Especially
someone. Yeah.
Jeepers,
I also wanted to talk to you about your dad as well.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously was a huge shark fisherman back in the day.
Yeah, monster
And then
shark
you guys
fisherman.
ended up getting the white shark protected in South Africa.
Yeah, I was born in Durban.
Yeah.
And my dad and Beulah Davis, who started in the tail shark sport, they were friends.
Yeah.
And the West Street groin or pier was where my father used to enjoy fishing. And in those days, there were a lot of sharks, mostly black tips and that. And they still are.
Well, yeah,
plenty.
there's an old fishing book in the dive shop up there, and it's got Durban and so many big sharks there, white sharks as well.
There's catch great white sharks of the North Pier.
Yeah.
Actually, excuse me, I think the largest sharks caught from shore anywhere in the world that were caught
From
off
Durban.
the North Pier, yeah, in Durban. So my dad didn't target the great whites. He used to target the smaller sharks, and a lot of his sharks used to end up in the Durban aquarium.
Okay.
They either end up in the aquarium or you just let them go.
Yeah.
And then what happened, we moved to Cape Town when I was younger, and then I was 1980, I think. Not from Durban, we actually moved down from Springbok, but we moved to Cape Town. My dad made a shitload of money in mining up in the Makwa land. He sold, and then so we lived in Somerset West overlooking Mossel Bay. And we had heard about the submarine.
Yeah.
And we were told it was 45 feet long and 30 feet long and all the rest, but eventually it turned out to be about 7 meters because we saw it eventually and hooked it and all the rest. So I actually caught the first great white shark.
Yeah.
A small one, 2.5 meter, 2.6 or whatever. And I think I'm still the youngest person in the world to ever catch a great white shark.
You reckon?
Yeah.
So, it's a good chance. It can't be that many.
Then I was. But then...
How old were you at the time?
I was 12.
12.
Yeah, just turned 12. But my father saw the submarine. I wasn't on the boat. Him, Frank, and Rodney, they worked for him. They saw the submarine because there were certain people like Tuckies and Stumber Mason and Arthur Ridgway and Donnie Skuman that had tried to hunt the submarine, and they were very specific about the markings on this animal.
Yeah.
And my dad came back that one day and he said they had the markings, it was definitely, and it was massive. And that's what got us into hunting, and over a couple of years, 2 years, not even 2 years, we caught 28 great whites. Well, my dad did.
Yeah.
Biggest one was 4.7.
So where did you see it, sorry? Was this in Durban or was this in Mossel Bay? Yeah.
We didn't even chum. Never chummed. We go out there and we just put a bait out, and in a couple of hours there would be a shark. And eventually my father, if it was a small shark, anything under 4 meters or around there, that's not small, it's huge. But my dad started catching bigger ones, and we take the bait out the water.
Yeah.
And then wait for it to go, and then put it in, and wait for hopefully a bigger one to come. So the biggest one he got was 4.7.
It's a big animal.
I think it's one of the biggest ever caught on rod and reel in South Africa. But then one day, we went out and caught it was under 4 meters. It was about, I'd say about 3.8, 3.9.
Yeah.
And we used to drag it back. We had a system where we used to lasso it around the tail, pull it near the boat, and then drag it back 9 miles. Back to harbour. Gordons Bay Harbour. And by the time dragging the thing backwards for 9 miles, the thing is so stressed, and most of them were just either dead or on the
way out. Yeah.
They wouldn't even move. And we pulled into Gordons Bay Harbour, and then it was always a big show. I mean, this big great white shark. I mean, it's actually reversed the boat trailer down and put the shark on the boat trailer first.
And then leave it, then take the boat out after.
And then take the big, and then weigh it, take it to a weigh station, and take the jaw out. It was very wasteful. But eventually at first the sharks were dumped, but then eventually they were sent to a cat food or dog food factory or something.
Okay.
So, but that shark that day, we came into the harbour, and my dad throttled back to come up to the jetty, and the boat started bouncing around. And this shark was going ballistic, rolling, and there were kids playing in the water in the corner, and the shark was anything but dead.
Dead, yeah.
It was fighting like hell.
It's just I suppose it's just had a free ride, all that oxygen going through its gills now.
Yeah, but also this thing, I've seen them, they're all different. Some of them will just give up.
Yeah.
And also on the rod, some of them you'll pull a 4.5 meter one in, you'll have it at the boat within 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you'll look at 3 meter, and you'll sit there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It just depends on the shark's
fighting it.
Yeah, the personality. So then Arthur Ridgway, he was in the harbour that day. So he came down, because now we had a problem. The shark, there's boats and ropes and the shark is thrashing and rolling. What we should have done is just dragged it out the harbour and cut the rope loose and let it go.
Yeah. But
Arthur, he came down, a little jetty like this. He came, a big bear of a guy like my dad, and he came bouncing down there with this harpoon. So, fuck, it's like a movie. So then my dad would slowly drag the shark past the, past the jetty, and then Arthur launched it.
Yeah.
Right to the gills. So there was blood everywhere, and the second time he did it, the shark fought and ripped the harpoon out of his hands. Arthur goes shooting back up to his car, and he comes down with a firearm, and everybody now gets out the way. On the jetty, it's like, get out of the way. So,
crazy man running down.
So anyway, we come past, he throws this 38 special, and then we towed it out the harbour, and my dad put 6 shots into his head, and then it died.
Yeah.
And that was the last great white shark my dad ever caught.
Yeah.
He didn't want. He said that he says that thing was fighting for its life.
Yeah.
And then what happened was in '89, Monique Price was attacked here and killed. And the municipality in Mossel Bay actually contacted him because what happened, they put out a bounty on the shark's head.
Right, okay.
Because it was the first scuba diver, and she was a female, to ever be attacked. Yeah. So it actually created a massive Jaws situation. And they put out a bounty. In those days, it was like, I think $3,000, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was just mayhem out there. Everybody throwing chum in the water and trying to catch the shark. So eventually they found my father. And my dad said he would come down and look for it, but they have to take the bounty away. Yeah. And they took the bounty away, so everybody lost interest. And he spent a week chumming, and he came across a couple of small sharks. They were too small.
It wasn't that well.
And so he left them alone. This shark was over 4 meters.
She got to the hospital though, didn't she? Or
she was dead before she got to shore.
Oh, really, was she?
Yeah, they tried to revive her, but I mean...
Yeah. Big chunk out of her leg.
Gosh, that horrible wound. So after a week, my dad called like a press conference, and just said, "Listen, it's pointless. The shark's long gone.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time trying to find this
Specific
shark." But what happened at the same time, in those days, everybody still saw the great white shark as public enemy number one.
Yeah.
But there were two schools of thought.
Yeah, we're good.
There were two schools of thought in the papers and the news, so the one was very anti-kill it,
Yeah.
and then there was a smaller group that was don't kill it, it's just to try and be reasonable. And the one was Leonard Compagno, who eventually became my boss, one of my bosses, and Nan Rice of the Dolphin Action Protection Group, and also my father.
Yeah.
So, and that's how my father and Len got together.
Okay.
And then my father had a meeting with Len and said, "So, what research is actually taking place on great white sharks in South Africa? How many are there?" And Len, who was head of the Shark Center, he said, "Almost no research.
Yeah.
We don't know anything." So my dad said, "Well, we better start doing something about it, and let's set up a research organization." So they had meetings with the Natural History Museum, and that's when the White Shark Research Unit was born.
Yeah.
That was in the beginning of 1990. And then the first thing we wanted to do was try and regulate the catching of the sharks, so we could figure out what was going on with them. So myself and Mike Boone, because I started working for the unit then, and myself and my colleague Mike Boone, we were sent up and down the coast to Gansbaai net, and we found in Gansbaai in 1 month they caught 17 great whites. So
it's not
1 month
sustainable when they're starting to take out.
So then the Dolphin Action Protection Group got involved, and then we started campaigning to get the white shark fishing regulated at least. And then the government said, "No, we'll protect them."
Yeah.
Preemptive for 5 years, and then that's a study I did for 5 years. The population dynamics, and based on that study, the protection continued.
Yeah.
Till today.
And then now it's international, basically.
Yeah, well,
for white sharks.
My father and Len and Nan Rice, but we were all a team. They got the white shark protected here.
Yeah.
First country in the world in April of '91. And then my father went up to Namibia, and they protected the great white shark.
Yep.
And then California was the next country, and then it
snowballed from there.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you actually look back, there can't be too many people on the planet that have been part of something that sort of monumental. But
yeah, we were very clever about how we did it. As soon as we started doing research, because we started with nothing.
Yeah.
The museum said, "No, we will provide you with. There's the wet lab is there, and Len's got an office. Provide you with offices, but we don't have funding for this." So my father went out and got the funding.
Yeah.
And at first it was also hand to mouth, but eventually we got sponsorship from Mass, the Wildlife Fund, and we got our research boat and crew. It was cool. It was awesome times.
That's amazing. Well, you don't think how many companies out there actually are pretty on board to sponsor things like that.
Yeah, what we did, we started I think it's that one band, Pink Floyd, Sympathy for the Devil or something.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we actually started our campaign was Sympathy for the Devil.
Okay, that's a pretty good way of doing it, especially around that time when Pink Floyd were huge.
So every single time we went to sea, we took the media with us.
Yeah.
And we gave the positive side, and we got so many clippings of South African white shark team world firsts.
Yeah.
So we became the leading white shark research organization in the world.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
That's incredible. Yeah.
But I'd say until 97.
Yeah, and then False Bay and Hans Bay were known as the great white shark capitals of the world back then.
Well, as soon as the white shark was protected, I mean, I remember the whole function at the museum. There was CNN there and BBC and the ministers, and it was a big thing, big event. And it was world news. And I remember the day Mike and I were told that, because my father and Leonard had a meeting with the Minister of Environmental Affairs.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, we're going to protect it. And then it came out in the newspapers and everybody was talking about it.
That's mental. Yeah.
And we went down to the harbour, the waterfront, and Mike and I were drinking a beer, and the people on the table next to us, they were talking about it. Can you believe it? You know, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And nobody expected it.
Fuck. No, it's a hell of a legacy. And yeah. No, and your dad it's amazing for your dad to start out as like the real life Quint off Jaws. So then I've seen the picture with him with the hooks and the big sharks steal like huge like gaff hooks and
hooks like this.
And then to go and actually protect the great white. And that's one thing that people don't forget is actually most cage diving operations were started by people who used to hunt them, weren't they?
Andre Hartman, just before he started, it was actually a documentary that was on us, but he was a spear fisherman.
Yeah.
And in that documentary, he says, great white shark comes and hassles him, he'll blow it away.
Really?
Yeah. And then a few months later,
he's famous for swimming with them now.
Yeah, a year later, he's was pro white shark.
Pro shark, yeah.
You know, and then, excuse me, and then Michael Rutson, he came a bit later, and he's a bit of a weirdo, but anyway, he was a commercial fisherman, so he caught sharks and that, but then once he got involved with great white sharks, he became conservationist, and you can't help it. I mean, these sharks are so...
They grab you, don't they?
They do. They're like addictive.
Yeah.
And
it's a real life dinosaur, isn't it? You can't imagine an animal that's like this.
To me, it's the legacy that it carries with it, and it's also the form of the great white shark.
Yeah.
It just looks like it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't improve.
No.
It looks dangerous.
It's perfection, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they just look unbelievable.
Everything you can imagine.
And there's a nostril.
Yeah. The orcas are the ones we're struggling with.
Yeah, I must check that out. Anyway, so Kim McLean, she worked for us, and then she resigned and started. And she was one of the first ones to start shark cage diving. Who else was down there? Pitt Small. He was a commercial fisherman.
Yeah.
Not great whites, but sharks, anything.
Anything, yeah.
And then he started shark cage diving, and then he stopped commercial fishing.
So some of the biggest shark killers turned into the biggest advocates.
But at the same time, our country opened up in '94. Remember, we had apartheid. Well, you from England, but we had apartheid here, which went away in '94.
Yeah,
and there was free and open elections and all the rest of it. And then tourism exploded. And if the white shark was not protected, you'd have had cage diving and you'd have had white shark hunting trips.
Yeah.
And you would not have one white shark today, even if the orcas were not here.
Yeah. No, I fully believe that. I think, there's other countries in the world where you still sort of see that happening now. Like
And
big game fishermen.
And you would have had guys taking people out in the morning to go shark cage diving and taking guys out in the afternoon to go fishing.
Hunting, yeah. So
there's another thing that the protection of the white shark has a huge influence on, was the conservation of other species of shark, because of the great white shark's really sexy appeal, for want of a better term, and it's notorious and it's famous and everything. It was a beautiful battering ram to
get everything else, research,
extend conservation to other species of shark.
keystone species, isn't it? And yeah, it's definitely one of the charismatic megafauna. Is that what they call it? But, yeah.
Megafauna, yeah. I think so. I never heard that word before, but I'll say yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we're about out of time for this one, but I want to say thank you very much for coming on. Super interesting as always, and we'll definitely do it again. I just want to say cheers.
Okay, to the death of the orcas and the survival of the great white sharks.
Here we go.
Yeah, it was fun.